CNN Headline News. I'm Lynne Russell. Saudi Arabian television released pictures of Kuwait today, videotaped in the aftermath of Iraq's invasion of that country. And the world joins forces against Iraq with economic sanctions, backed by a show of military might. The invasion of Kuwait left cars, businesses, and homes damaged and sent people fleeing across the Kuwaiti desert into Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, in Iraq, thousands of people poured into the streets of Baghdad today to show their support for Iraqi President Saddam Hussein. Hussein has called on all Arabs and Muslims to rise up against their pro-Western leaders and launch a holy war against the American-led presence in Saudi Arabia. That call has generated daily pro-Iraqi demonstrations in the Middle East. Despite the international embargo against Kuwait, Iraqi freighters can still be seen in the southern Jordanian port of Aqaba. The trucks, stopped with a variety of goods, apparently are making their way into Iraq from Jordan. Jordan's King Hussein has promised to impose sanctions, but Jordanian police reportedly forced a Norwegian-owned carrier to unload grain to Iraq today in defiance of the United Nations ban. The Prime Minister of NATO member Turkey found himself in political hot water after he took steps against Iraq without consulting Parliament. Richard Blystone has that.
This crumbling fortress defended Ankara for nobody really knows how many hundreds of years. But nowadays, deciding where Turkey's lines of defense should be drawn isn't so easy. Opposition leaders told a special session of the Turkish parliament Sunday that President Turgut Özal had exceeded his constitutional powers by holding discussions with foreign leaders and by cutting off the pipeline that carried Iraqi oil through Turkey to the Mediterranean without consulting the National Assembly. Erdal İnönü declared Turkey doesn't want to be drawn into war with its neighbor to the southeast. Özal protested he's done no more than reaffirm Turkey's obligations to the United Nations and to NATO. The president sought broad powers for the government he dominates to declare war and send troops to operations like the multinational force without putting it to the parliament. The parliament gave him instead a watered-down confirmation of power to act if Turkey is attacked. Turks are already feeling the crisis. Young men who've recently completed military service are being told where to report in case of war. The company that makes gas masks and chemical filters has been ordered to double production. F-16 fighters, the cream of Turkey's Air Force, are reported to have been moved closer to the Iraqi border. Turkey's 800,000-man armed forces are almost as big as Iraq's, second only to the U.S. in NATO. The bravery and iron discipline of Turkish soldiers are legendary. But Turkey's military strategy and capabilities are focused on defending Turkish soil, not on projecting power hundreds of miles away. And much of its weaponry is antiquated, armor of Korean War vintage, and except for about 50 F-16s, aircraft dating from the Vietnam era. But around the Iraqi border, Turkish troops have been busy with Kurdish guerrillas who slip back and forth across the frontier, fighting for an independent nation. Man for man, the Turkish troops are probably more than a match for the Iraqis. But there are many here who are pointing out that while Iraqi missiles can't reach Washington, they're perfectly capable of dropping their poison gas on the Turkish capital. Much of eastern Turkey is within Iraqi missile range. But as in the far south, along the Saudi frontier, the specter of chemical weapons has changed not only the battlefield equation, but the way this country looks at the prospect of war. Richard Blystone, CNN, Ankara.
The State Department says the estimated number of Americans in Iraqi-controlled Kuwait is down now to 2,500. It says about 500 Americans have managed to escape the country because of lax security by Iraqi guards at border checkpoints. President Bush will break off his vacation in Maine tomorrow and return to Washington for 2 days of briefings on the Gulf crisis. While he fished today, Mr. Bush's spokesman said the United States would not intercept medical supplies to Iraq. But Marlin Fitzwater insisted the United States would enforce the UN embargo, and that includes food. The media are getting a first-hand look at U.S. patrols in the Persian Gulf. Some members of the Pentagon press pool watched operations aboard the USS Independence today. Mark Dulmage is there.
For the United States, this is the tip of the spear that has been thrown at Iraq and President Saddam Hussein following his takeover of neighboring Kuwait. The aircraft carrier Independence took up station in the Persian Gulf a few days ago with its deadly arsenal of jet fighter planes and bombers. The Independence has been carrying out flight operations since the moment it arrived in the Gulf. All its planes are carrying a mixture of air-to-air and air-to-ground missiles, along with bombs for use against possible ground targets. Naval officials are going out of their way, however, to stress that these flights are of a defensive, not offensive nature. This tip of the spear is just the first of at least 3 carriers from the U.S. ordered to the Persian Gulf to contain any further military moves by Iraq, especially against Saudi Arabia. The Independence is the centerpiece of what is called Battle Group Delta in the Gulf. It is entirely self-sustaining. It needs no outside logistical support to stay on station for as long as President Bush decides to keep the pressure on Iraq or possibly go over to the offensive. It's something these young men admit they think about. Combat, the enemy, and death.
Everybody, I'm sure, is a little bit nervous, maybe a little afraid. If you're not, there's something wrong with you, probably. I don't know if some guys get frightened. I'm sure everybody's a tad frightened, and that's natural, I believe.
Flight operations do not end at sundown. Quite the contrary. The carrier deck is alive with youngsters 18 and 19 years old guiding the sleek fighter planes into their launch positions. The deck crew of the Independence is so well trained, night takeoffs and recovery operations take exactly the same time as those done during daylight. And it's always done with no special floodlights or even an electrical hookup from the deck crew to the pilot in his cockpit. Morale aboard the Independence is extremely high. There seems to be no one at any rank who does not completely believe in what they have been assigned to do or what may come. Pilots and crew of the USS Independence are asking the same questions as the rest of the world is about what next in the Persian Gulf. The difference is that the deck of the Independence and the men who work here could easily play a major role in determining what does happen. Mark Dolmage, CNN, on the USS Independence.
Gas prices may have come down in the last few days, but they're still way above what they were before the Middle East crisis. According to a survey of 13,000 stations around the country, the average price of gasoline has jumped more than 10 cents since July 20th. It's now about $1.28 a gallon. Oil prices also have climbed. The price of West Texas Intermediate, the benchmark U.S. crude, rose 54 cents a barrel today to $26.77. Defense Secretary Dick Cheney has decided on major military equipment cuts. 9 destroyers and 2 Seawolf nuclear attack submarines will not be built. That will save the Pentagon an estimated $7 billion. A former Swiss hostage is in the hands of Swiss authorities in Syria. Today, the Red Cross confirmed Elio Enriquez was released yesterday. A group calling itself the Palestinian Revolutionary Squads had held him and a co-worker for 10 months. Emmanuel Christen was freed last week. In California, thousands of firefighters are working to save 1,600 homes from forest fires burning across the state. 3 major fires remain out of control in Yosemite National Park. Flames are within 2 miles of some extremely old, giant sequoia trees that have been treated with flame retardant. Fires also are burning in 5 other western states. In Washington, D.C., Mayor Marion Barry says he wants to keep his options open for a possible political comeback. Today, he dropped his Democratic Party affiliation and declared himself an independent. Barry's advisors say he plans to run for a city council seat. Last week, Barry was convicted of a misdemeanor cocaine possession charge and was acquitted of another. The jury could not reach a verdict on 12 other drug and perjury charges. On the medical front, daily massage may speed the growth of premature babies who are exposed to cocaine in the womb. University of Miami researchers massaged babies for a total of 45 minutes a day for 10 days. They say those babies gained more weight, and they left the hospital about 4 days earlier than those who didn't receive the treatment. Sounds like science fiction, but in the not-too-distant future, people whose lungs are unable to breathe air may breathe liquids. Andrew Holtz reports the concept has been tried in very sick newborns.
The scene from the movie The Abyss showing a diver breathing liquid instead of air is close to reality. The first people actually to breathe liquid were premature infants. In Philadelphia, several very sick newborns who had not responded to other treatments were connected for a few minutes to pumps that circulated a special fluid into their lungs. The fluid is a perfluorochemical capable of carrying large amounts of oxygen in and carbon dioxide out. Researchers hope the fluid would benefit the infants' underdeveloped and damaged lungs.
The most amazing aspect of it is, I think, the fact that the babies had severe damage at the time we did the procedure, so that we got a response in spite of the fact that the lungs were already very damaged.
Despite the experimental treatment, each of the infants later died. Liquid ventilation is not a new idea. Animal experiments go back decades.
Now you see he continues to breathe. His nose stays pink. His eyes are nice and pink.
The key is the type of fluid. Water will drown you because it doesn't contain enough oxygen. But these experimental fluids contain twice as much oxygen as air. This mouse was submerged for 10 minutes, apparently without ill effect. And damaged or underdeveloped lungs may actually tolerate liquid better than air.
The fluid will go into the lung at much lower pressure and expand the lung uniformly at very low pressures, which is very different than a gas.
But how does it feel?
We don't know specifically what the sensation of breathing the fluid is.
After treatment, most of the fluid is pumped out and the rest soon evaporates.
Liquid ventilation offers potential treatments not only for lungs that are underdeveloped, but also for lungs under assault by disease.
Drugs put in the fluid could go directly to lung tumors, infected or inflamed lung tissue, and the fluid might benefit cystic fibrosis patients, among others. The researchers say they're planning to refine new fluids and pumping devices and test them on patients with various lung diseases. An editorial in a medical journal concluded the big first step has been taken, and now it's time for liquid breathing to find its proper place in the treatment of lung diseases. Andrew Holt, CNN, Philadelphia.
Serious optical flaws are not keeping the Hubble Space Telescope from giving scientists a better look at the cosmos. Today, NASA released a photo taken by the telescope that reveals something new. The photograph clearly showed 60 stars in an area once thought to have only a single massive star. And in headline consumer news, parts of America that seemed recession-proof are beginning to feel the pinch.
For Tuesday afternoon, central and southern Arizona brace for the possibility of flooding rains and only isolated thunderstorms to help firefighters battling blazes in the west. But the already soggy New England may see some additional rainfall.
So aggressive, it mastered Germany's treacherous Nürburgring. So spirited, it has 4 valves per cylinder. So serious, it only comes with a stick shift. The BMW 318 is back. With a vengeance. Introducing the BMW 318 IS.
I mean, who wants to eat bait?
Wasn't he the guy that got his head cut off? What are crumpets?
Come on, you wimp, come on.
We don't have it because you don't want it. At Days, what we do have are great rooms, great value, at over 1,000 great locations. And that's the honest truth.
We are a family, like a giant tree, growing stronger, growing wiser, and we are growing free. We are a family. The tunnel, the spirit of family.
Just this much Cortaid heals more kinds of itches than all of these. And for irritating rashes, more doctors recommend Cortaid than any other brand. Cortaid, it heals.
A bit off your game? A diet without vegetables may be unbalanced. V8 is a delicious blend of 8 vegetable juices to help balance your diet. Drink V8. Keep your diet straight.
Mideast tensions contributed to a slowdown on Wall Street today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 30 points. Trading was light. Darkness was another factor in the lax trading. A fire at an electrical substation caused a power outage in New York's financial district this afternoon. It forced some commodity exchanges to close. Many brokers had to suspend operations. Others just left for the day. The west and northwest parts of the United States have long avoided the recession-like conditions that are affecting most other parts of the country. But as Greg Lefebvre reports, the slowdown is beginning to catch up with the West.
The chips are rolling off in record numbers at Cypress Semiconductor, while some other lines in Silicon Valley fall silent. It typifies the hot and cold state of the Northwest economy. Hot movers such as Cypress, Intel, and Motorola leaped ahead by specializing in customized or semi-custom models.
The companies that are not doing so well have perhaps lost a little bit of their ability to move quickly, some of their flexibility, some of the fleetness of foot that they might have had 10, 15 years ago.
The upward price spiral of homes has all but stopped. High interest rates and stratospheric home prices slammed the door on the real estate industry. Drier weather has parched some farmers, but the cotton loves it, and so do cotton growers. San Francisco can still count on $4 billion from tourists this year. It's the same as last year, but the city will settle for that.
Like retail sales, tourism is also part of the discretionary income spending, and people are keeping a little watch on that this year.
Promoters say last year's earthquake is no longer a factor in Bay Area tourism. The shaky ground is now under the timber industry. Threatened species like the spotted owl and threatened practices like exporting logs have the timber industry worried. That uncertainty slows down long-term spending for items from household goods to plant machinery. Farther north, the machinery runs overtime. Seattle seems nearly immune to troubles. Helping a lot is Boeing's huge success. What eases the strain in areas of economic uncertainty right now is diversification. Stung by the fits and starts of one industry economies, most major regions of the West have sought to ensure that one industry cannot buoy or sink the economy. Greg Lefebvre, CNN, San Francisco.
The affordability of new homes has decreased. The Mideast crisis could affect it even more. The National Association of Realtors says starter home prices rose $300 during the second quarter of the year. Industry officials say a prolonged Mideast conflict will drive them up even further. UPS, the United Parcel Service, has averted a strike by union drivers and package handlers. Today, the Teamsters Union announced its members have approved a new 3-year contract. A Massachusetts company is using recycled trash to hold trash. Webster Industries has introduced 2 lines of plastic trash bags that are made of up to 80% recycled plastic. Coming up in CNN Headline Sports, the end of a vacation for Deion Sanders.
This is CNN Headline News.
I'm on my way. Boise?
When your travel plans suddenly change,
You gotta help me. I checked my case to Boston, now they want me in Boise.
it's good to know Delta's got a team like Cumbus
Walt, I need a recheck fast.
to Price
Flag sample case?
to Morris
Tag number 0479.
to Eldridge.
I got it.
Great job, Walt. No problem, Mr. DePrima.
Thanks.
Mr. DePrima, Mr. Michael DePrima, please call your office.
Walt? About that bag.
Sunup on St. Simon's Island. A new day dawning at Sea Palms Golf and Tennis Resort. Georgia's favorite island playground. You'll love the sporting life at Sea Palms and the serenity and beauty of this exquisite offshore island paradise. Make plans to get away and relax at Sea Palms today. You'll be very glad you did.
You're on your way.
Kids and science can really get together in the right kind of place. So Dow has developed and funded the Touch Tech Laboratory here at Impression 5 in Lansing, Michigan.
In this particular experiment, we're going to make a solid out of two liquids.
It's a hands-on museum that puts the wonders of science at a child's fingertips.
Here you go, PJ.
And who knows what that could lead to.
Dow lets you do great things.
Bob Pacello, CNN Headline Sports. Defensive back Deion Sanders, who left the Yankees 2 weeks ago, finally ended his holdout and joined the NFL's Falcons. Despite being 18 days late and amassing $37,000 in fines, Sanders is a welcomed addition.
You know, I think he'll fit in. I think his attitude will go along with us. Just that I really don't have any idea how good he is, other than he must be pretty good.
Another holdout, Giants linebacker Lawrence Taylor says he'll report to camp and drop his $2 million salary demand if the team agrees to grant him free agency following the season. Giants GM George Young, in so many words, said, not a chance. The Broncos say Coach Dan Reeves could be back as soon as next Monday. His treatment for arterial blockage has gone better than expected. Originally, doctors said he could be out up to 6 weeks. Baseball, Phillies right-hander Ken Howell will miss the rest of the season after undergoing arthroscopic surgery on his pitching shoulder today. Although just 8-8, Howell was the Phils' top winner. The Padres' all-time career win leader Eric Shaw wants out. He's been relegated to mop-up duty and says he gets no respect. Manager Greg Riddick says, quote, if he wants to sit there and cry in the corner, he can cry alone. Shaw is 4-8 with a 6.25 ERA. In the majors tonight, the Reds have rallied past the Giants. The Dodgers trail the Braves and the Astros over the Cubs. American League, the Tigers over the Indians. Cecil Fielder a 2-run homer, his 36th. Toronto-Chicago tight game. The Jays started play 3 back in the East. Kansas City beating Texas coming up a bit later. The division leaders meeting at the Coliseum. Baltimore is at Seattle, and the Yanks at California. Bob Pacello, CNN Headline Sports.
This is CNN Headline News.
Introducing Centrum Silver, an all-new multivitamin made just for you and your changing needs. New Centrum Silver, because you're over 50 and you're out there swinging. New Centrum Silver, the first complete vitamin formula that keeps up with the changes in you and your nutritional requirements. New Centrum Silver. Now's the time you need it, because right now, it's a great time to be silver.
I'm so serious about work, being a great dad, even tennis. I'm so serious. All I've got is stress.
The Mitchum report shows Americans are under more stress than ever. That's why today you need Mitchum, the antiperspirant so effective you could even skip a day.
We are a family.
Gaetano, the spirit of family.